Hey everyone, welcome to Be Strong Be You. It's been a few weeks since you've seen my face and actually talking, but I am here this week and I am going to get into middle school. But before I do that, I would just like to take this moment to give a true shout out to those who blog and it is like their craft. I feel like my weeks are going so quickly because I literally blink and next thing you know, it's Tuesday and I'm like, oh, I dedicated to Wednesday postings. But at this point, as long as I get through it within 7 days, I'm okay. Sometimes you just gotta pace with it and keep moving forward. But a shout out to those who blog multiple times a week, days. I can't even compete, so I'm not trying to either. So I just wanted to give a shout out. Welcome everyone who's joined the blog, connected with me on Facebook, connected with me on Twitter, connected with me on LinkedIn. I enjoy all of the support that I'm getting. It's amazing. So at the end of this video, I will kind of give a little update on how I've been doing. So I'm going to get into middle school. And it's so jumbly, but I know that for sure this week I'm really not going to talk about the home side of middle school right now. So this week I'm going to talk about the school side of middle school. So in my last video, I talked about my hair falling back out at the end of 5th grade and it coming back as a mohawk. It had grown back as a mohawk, but it fell out in patches until eventually I was back to wearing wigs again. And unfortunately, it was a braided one. So my feature picture is a braided wig from when I was cheerleading in 7th grade. For some reason, that must have been the style that was in, is braided wigs, or maybe they were just easily accessible. But there it is, you see it. And I should totally go get one just to wear it, just to have a comparison of what braided wigs looked like then and what they look like now, just because. So who knows? Maybe, I don't know if I'm ready to spend that money on that. So let's see, middle school. At this point, I was from a very small town, so everyone knew everybody and everything about anybody. And when my hair started falling out, I was already known as the girl who had no hair. So when my hair fell out again, it really wasn't a big deal to my peers. It was like, I just showed up back to school and I was wearing a wig again. I totally felt embarrassed going into school, but it wasn't anything anybody pointed out purposely. So, it was what it was. Of course, in middle school, you start to get into sports. And the first sport that I did was basketball. And I'm going to try to set this up and intertwine it with when I start talking about home life in middle school. So a lot of what was going on, and I'll give a shout out to my childhood friends, and I don't want to name you by name unless we eventually have a conversation that it's okay to do that. But I started seeing that as things were going on in my home, and when I talk about things going on, I talk about the abuse, that my ability to actually be involved even in those sports started to be limited. So I remember the first thing I did was basketball. And we had like 18 games, and I literally made like 8 or 9 games because we got the stats. And it was pretty much because I wasn't able to really connect with any of my peers because it was that serious that it was just, they really wanted me to not be interactive to possibly say anything. And I noticed looking back now that the people that I was able to interact with were people who were, my parents were really close to. And if you don't know, like that's one of the traits of someone who does abuse others, is that you, as the victim, you don't say anything because you assume that because your parents are friends with those other people that you won't say anything because those people won't believe you. And now that I know that that's exactly what was going on, I was only able to have friends with people that my parents actually knew and had a relationship with, because for me, saying anything meant they wouldn't believe me. Even if it was people that we went to church with, it just was what it was. Of course, I didn't understand it then. I just knew I just could never go anywhere, or the slightest thing would mean staying home. Again, at this point, I was the oldest of only 4, but then my parents became foster parents in middle school, and that kind of changed the game a little bit. So, but before that point happened, we had only had like a few kids come in and out of our home. So I will get to that because that's going to be a whole story in itself. So let's talk about me playing sports. Of course, I was also, just as being an adult, I was always fearful of anything that would make me embarrassed immediately in a crowd of people. Yet I wanted to be involved in sports to get out of my home. And I just took the risk. It was like, if my hair comes off, it does. But I never really fully got into the sport. I never really tried really hard to learn the sport, especially basketball. Not for me. But it was just a way to not be at home, to be able to get out and go to practice on Saturdays and to be able to just not be there. I eventually got into cheerleading, and oh my gosh, that was so hard. I mean, I don't know why I put myself at risk like that, because I was a very strong person. So I was always the base. I was just a solid girl. And of course, when you are a base, anybody could like come down and hit me on the head, and my hair would come off. And fortunately, that never happened. But there were times when I missed games and couldn't go to games. So, I mean, I just had really poor attendance altogether in middle school sports. And my coach would be like, what happened? And this is, so, I'm like 12, 13. It's kind of getting to the point where I'm starting to watch and babysit my brothers. So that was always the excuse I used, is I have to babysit. And for a majority of the reason, that really was it. My parents would work and just, I'd be like, I have a game, and no one would come home, and then I'd have to stay there and I'd have to miss my game. And I remember some of my friends literally like coming to my house to give me a ride, and my parents never came home, and they had to leave me, and I couldn't go to the game. So I remember in my last post, I started talking about anger setting in, and anger was really serious. Like, I was just angry all the time when I was at home. And when I would go to school, I was still a good student, and I still had good grades, and I didn't really get in any trouble. There were a few instances, and I'll get to that, but not enough to flag anyone like something was wrong. So even as an educator now, I'm very keen on watching children in general and watching their signs, because I was one of those students that fell through simply because, I did everything right. And I remember in middle school trying to go talk to the counselor on like 2 occasions, and she was like, you don't need to come see me. And she was like the one person that I never really talked to, but I remember going in her office one day, and I was like, I want to come in here and talk to you. And she was like, you don't need to talk to me. But if she really knew, I really needed to talk to her. So I'm now, as an educator, I'm very observant of kids, and as they get older in age, because I would never share my story of my life with little kids, but as they get older in age and I start to see them going through things, I won't go into detail, but I'll tell them, even though we don't come from the same background, I come from a small town, you come from a big city, like we can relate in some areas where I can understand what you're going through. I can understand your pain. And from there, students start to open up, and that's what I wish would have happened in my school, but unfortunately it did not. So I was just really angry in middle school. As far as accidents happening with my hair, there were only a few. One I do remember is in middle school, we got to arrived to school early, and we all used to play basketball in the gym. And we used to play shootout. And if you don't know that game, it's when you shoot the basketball, and as long as you make your basket before the person behind you makes their basket, you're still in the game. But if they do, you're out. And I remember this one time, and to this point, I don't even know if it was intentional or if it was an accident. And I remember getting hit in the back of the head with the ball. And for me, I thought maybe they just tried to shoot it and it bounced off. All I know is my hair came off. I did not turn around. I did not turn around and look at my peers. I literally just picked up my hair and walked to the locker room, which was like down the stairs around the corner. And I just went in the stall and I stood there. And I heard the bell ring, so I knew people were going to class. And I started crying in the stall. And then I put my hair on, I wiped my face, and then I just left the locker room and went back to class. And no one stopped me in the hall when I got to the classroom. The teacher didn't even ask me why I was late. I didn't even have a pass. They just kept on going. And so I wasn't sure if one of my peers said anything, but when I look back on that, I was like, that was actually a really good moment, because I was in shock. I didn't even hear if anybody was laughing at me. That's why I said I can't really tell you if it was intentional or not. I just didn't see it. So cheerleading was hard, and I'm gonna get into that because I continue cheerleading all the way through high school, and I have pictures of that too. And just that anxiety that I carried around about really trying to be normal, but still knowing like I'm really not normal. And now that I'm walking around with no hair today, I think, what if I would have been like that? Like, what kind of athlete would I be? I mean, I was strong. I remember my friends telling me I had Angela Bassett arms, which, you know, I'm trying to get them back. I'm trying to get them back. But I used to be a solid girl, and I used to run track and everything. So I just couldn't imagine where I would be if I would have stuck with that. But it's really hard to just talk about school because I really need to talk about the home side of things. So I'm just kind of giving some preface to what I'm going to talk about and just kind of giving an update. Before I leave today, I'm just looking at my notes right here. I want to give a shout out to my Snapchat followers. I feel like I haven't really been doing Xbox. I'm thinking about my child. Facebook Live, Xbox. But I feel like they get a more close-up of what I do on an everyday basis. I didn't think I would like Snapchat as much as I do, but it's really cool because they've been able to see a lot of things that you haven't seen yet, but you will, simply because they follow me on Snapchat. So if you haven't, I posted it on my Facebook Be Strong Be You page so that you can go and add me and follow me. It's been really fun. I actually love it. They've seen me, as you guys know, I'm doing CrossFit. I'm in week 6. They have followed me through that journey. I actually went to my hometown last week, and versus just doing a straight go to my godparents' house and leave town, I actually stopped by the locations of my homes that I used to live in when I was in my hometown and my high school. So thank you for everyone that was a part of that, as well as if you watch those that actually were in my hometown trying to help me out. Thank you so much for that too. So if you're not following me on Snapchat, do that. I don't do Snapchat all day, every day, but there are some days where it gets a lot. There's a lot of snaps, and then there's some days where I only do like 1 or 2. So, and I kind of like it because I know a lot of people watch my blog, but a lot of people are, some people are watching it because they really want to know about me, and some people are watching it because they really want to see what I'm talking about, and some people really have no interest, but they just want to see what I'm talking about anyways. And what I'd say to that is, if you really have no purpose, then you don't have a purpose. just shut it down and turn it off. But like, if you genuinely want to be supportive, thank you, and continue watching and share and comment. I love it all. It's been very great. I went to church for the first time in my hometown since I was little with no hair, and that was good. I heard a lot of good compliments about my blog. And only one person touched my head, and I told her she was probably the only person in life that would be able to do that. And that's because I've known her my entire life, and she's elderly, and we all love her. So I just let her do it. You know, she's like the church grandma, so no problem. As far as going back to my hometown, it was pretty painful to actually stop and go to those, and I actually to my houses, and I have pictures of that that I'm going to show when we get to the next blog. So what you can expect coming forward is me talking about the continuation of abuse and how it affected me at school, how it affected me at home. I'm going to talk about my faith again as I'm in middle school, and we're going to keep going with my alopecia hair adventure of now I'm wearing a wig, what's next? So my hair is going to come back for a short time in middle school, and then eventually high school is going to come around, and then it's just going to hit the fan. So stick with me. I can't wait till I get to that, till I get past middle school, because it's just really jumbled, but you know, it's pretty solid from high school on, and I don't ever want to miscommunicate anything. So thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're not connected with me on Facebook, connect with me there, connect with me on Snapchat. If you're a professional and you just want to know me professionally, I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram. So thank you so much for everyone who's watching, and I appreciate all of the support, and I will talk to you guys next week. So be strong and be you.